Thank everyone for joining us today. My name is Jeremy Cady. I'm the State Director for Americans for Prosperity right here in the state of Missouri. Joining me from Arlington is Thomas Fletcher with our Government Affairs team. But also joining us is our special guest, building off a background on public service as a university president, teacher, and my former congressman from the 7th Congressional District. Having been elected to the United States Senate in 2010, we have U.S. Senator Roy Blunt with us today. He currently serves as the chairman for the Senate's Republican Policy Committee and is the ranking member of the Senate Rules Committee. We wanted to get right into the discussion so that way we won't keep you waiting on our topics today. And the first topic we'd like to talk a little bit about is healthcare. This has been a discussion that we've been having here in the state of Missouri, a lot of policy issues. We actually just did a tour across the state from Maryville down to Joplin, over to Farmington, discussing with a number of Missourians about the importance of healthcare and what we need to do to reimagine it. And one of those issues that we've been talking about is telehealth, telemedicine. I think it's a very important issue. And I believe that you had recently filed legislation to that sort to extend it. I know President Trump and both President Trump and Governor Mike Parson suspended some of the rules with telehealth. Do you want to get into a little bit about the legislation that you filed and the importance of telehealth to Missouri?
Well, Jeremy, great to be with you and Tom, and thanks for what your organization does nationally, and thanks for what you do in our state. I certainly think that one of the unanticipated benefits, and there aren't many, from having to deal with COVID was that really required Americans to think about telehealth in a different way. And maybe most importantly, it required the government to think about health in a different way and to think about telehealth in a different way. You know, people putting off talking to their doctor, seeing their doctor, not wanting to go to a doctor's waiting room or anything like that. And telehealth was there, and it was there all the time. My guess is we were about 5 years behind in making this decision. The effort to get to the doctor, the missed appointment, the someone who, if you need someone to help you get there, who at the last minute couldn't pick you up, forgot they were taking you, suddenly those things go away, and you have that interaction with the doctor that you need to have. I've talked to lots of doctors about this, and every one of them that I've talked to will say that at least 9 out of 10 times, and maybe more than that, they can achieve what they need to in a telehealth visit. And if it's a more serious case, a telehealth visit that may require somebody doing some blood pressure monitoring or something like that. But all of those things are right around the corner too, where your doctor's going to know that by the watch you wear. I've said in a couple of speeches in the last 2 years, we're quickly reaching a place where it's probably more likely your doctor's office will call you than you'll call your doctor's office at some future point. And I think telehealth, telebehavioral health, I'm a big advocate of treating behavioral health like all other health. Telebehavioral health sometimes is found to work even more effectively than having your behavioral health provider in the room with you. Whatever issues you have, one of them may be that you're just frankly more comfortable talking to that screen about these challenges than you would be to another person in the room. So I'm encouraging the CMS, the group that monitors Medicare, to continue their determination to have telehealth available. And I think if this goes on much longer, it'll be so baked into the system that both the healthcare provider and the patient the consumer of healthcare will say, no, I don't want to change that. I'll go see the doctor when I need to, but the doctor and I can figure out when that is a whole lot better than me making the effort to get down there. It's particularly helpful, I think, in rural areas or people who have a real challenge just simply physically or transportation wise getting to the doctor. And so I'm glad we've changed the government's view on that, and we haven't changed it permanently, but every time we extend the telehealth access by another 90 days or another 6 months, I think that gets us much closer to where people are going to say, and providers are going to say, that this saves money, it doesn't cost money, and we're prepared to do this in a way that makes sense to both the patient, the taxpayer, if the taxpayer is involved, the insurance company, if the insurance involved, or whatever else we need to do to make this continue to be an important part of our ongoing healthcare in the country.
Excellent. And if you think healthcare is important to you, for those of you watching today, and we need to do what we can to remove some of those barriers between you seeing your doctor, like telehealth that the senator just mentioned, we should have a link down below right in our comments. And so you can click on that link and you can take action and make your voice heard. Now, you had also mentioned, we spoke a little bit before going live, but you had also mentioned a little bit about vaccines. Now, oftentimes, the vaccination process and getting approval for that is quite long, and I think it was actually sped up quite a bit. Do you want to go into a little bit about the vaccine process, what improvements we've kind of seen here as far as trying to get ahead of COVID in this pandemic?
Well, I'd be glad to. And, there was a time when there was a lot of criticism in Europe and other places that the United States isn't handling this very well, that the per capita challenges are greater than other countries. That had begun to change even before the vaccine, but the vaccine has really made a huge difference in our ability to look forward and look forward in the very near future. Healthcare, guys, is changing in a rapid way. Everything from immunotherapy to the future potential of CRISPR technology to genetics, all of these things are different. And frankly, these two vaccines, the first two vaccines developed, were different than any other vaccines ever developed because we had made an investment to research, to healthcare research. We've encouraged others to do that kind of research. And we were able to build on the foundation that was there and develop the first two vaccines. Basically, tell your own system of resistance, here's what to look for, and if this happens, here's how your system reacts. That's different than every other vaccine that's ever been developed. Virtually everybody my age has a smallpox scar. And that's because the way you didn't have smallpox was when you were about 10 years old in the fourth grade or so, everybody lined up at school and you got a smallpox shot and had a little bit of smallpox, but that's how vaccines worked from the time we first began to treat people that way. These two vaccines don't do that. We've also developed vaccines that were much more traditional in an equally short period of time because the government in the Trump administration was willing to step up and say, we're going to do something we've never done before. We're going to become a partner early. And if we believe that there's a better chance that a vaccine that you're moving forward on would be approved than not, we're going to go ahead and place an order. And when we place that order, when your vaccine is approved, we expect you to have vaccines available right then that could begin to go out to the country. And if your vaccine isn't approved, we're going to buy that vaccine and we'll take care of seeing that nobody ever gets that vaccine because it didn't quite make it through this process. But any vaccine that's been approved has gone through the process that every other vaccine has ever gone through. What we haven't done is we don't have like the 3-year window of looking at everything else that might possibly happen. Do you need a booster shot in a year? We don't know that. In a traditional vaccine, we probably would know that because the traditional time clock wouldn't have been 9 months. It would have been 3 years. If we would have figured out how to develop vaccines in 2 years, that would have been a world record. But with the ability to use the resources of the government to respond quickly and a determination to do that, we're moving now toward, by the end of what would normally be the time a vaccine would be developed, enough Americans would have had the vaccine to assure the kind of herd immunity that doesn't allow the virus to continue to spread. I had the vaccine the first day I was eligible to have it. I would encourage others to have it. I would resist any government effort to tell you you had to have it. But certainly if we can create a society where the vaccine has no place to replicate, it's going to go away. And of course, all of us are eager for that to happen as soon as it possibly can. And it took a while, frankly, to get this started in the way it needed to be started. But I think by the end of last year, all the tools were on the shelf to move forward in the dramatic way that we're now moving forward with vaccines available, frankly, to anybody over 16 who wants them. I think I saw, over the weekend that 90% of all Americans were within 5 miles of a place where they could get a vaccine right now. And if they're over 16, they all qualify right now.
Excellent. Thank you. Another big issue that we've been seeing a lot about, especially on the news, is there appears to be a push in the Senate to remove the filibuster. You know, you've served in both chambers of Congress, the House. You know, the House doesn't have a filibuster. And so now you're serving in the US Senate, which does. Why is the filibuster important? And what's the impact that it would have if it was removed?
Well, the filibuster is really another term to talk about the rules of the Senate that actually protect the views of the minority. You know, the Senate is unique in legislative bodies almost anywhere in today's governments. Former Prime Minister of Australia at one point, one of their former prime ministers said the Senate was the one piece of unique genius in the Constitution. Now, I think largely it's the way that the Senate has grown up after the Constitution, but the people who wrote the Constitution expected the Senate to work much more methodically than the House, and the immediate rules of the Senate from day one were that the rights of the minority in the Senate were going to be factored in. So what happens with this normal operating procedure? There are times when any member really objects to moving forward where 60 members are necessary to override that. So it's not a majoritarian determination. And what that really does is, Jeremy and Tom, what that really does is it forces members of the Senate to look for ways to involve at least somebody from the other party. It creates relationships that get things done. It creates that moment where last year, the United States Senate and the Congress generally, with a Republican president, passed 5 bipartisan bills in response to the COVID challenge. And part of that was because in the Senate, you had developed those bipartisan working relationships that the filibuster really requires. And of course, if you do away with the filibuster, the current majority could do crazy things like add 4 judges to the Supreme Court, which they have talked about. It would damage the court in a dramatic way, and the filibuster would come back quickly on the current majority because they won't be in the majority forever. And they better think of the list that the other side would immediately do if they pursue these nationalizing the elections, making DC a state, and all of the things in the so-called infrastructure bill that don't have anything to do with infrastructure. So I'm a big advocate for the Senate continuing to function in a way that sometimes it does take 2 election cycles or maybe even 3 for something the House would pass after 1 election to actually change the course of the country. And in a big, diverse country like ours, often by the time you get to that second election, people have changed their mind about what they thought in the election before that and began to see, as the debate developed, well, I see now the reasons maybe we shouldn't go that way or shouldn't go dramatically that way. And that it was the Senate from day one that really required the country to think carefully about dramatic changes in direction before those changes were made.
Senator, I'm so glad that you brought up court packing there. And obviously, one of the jobs of the U.S. Senate is to advise and consent on the president's nominees, as well as those nominees to the judicial branch. Just this past month, we've seen Congress on the House side introduce legislation that would pack the Supreme Court with 4 new judges. And I'm not trying to be funny, but what is the problem they are trying to fix?
Well, exactly. And that's not funny. And I think that's exactly the question that needs to be asked here. What problem are you trying to fix? What makes you think that a bigger court would be a better court? Both Ruth Bader Ginsburg, in the last year of her life, said she thought 9 was about the right number. Justice Breyer, a liberal justice on the court, within the last month has said he believed 9 was the right number. And what would happen, Tom, if you add 4 members? Okay, Republicans, when we controlled the Senate and the White House, I had the great good fortune of being able to add 3 judges to the court who take a Scalia-like view of the court, that the judge's job is to determine what the Constitution and the law says, not what you think it should say. And of course, I'm supportive of that direction for the court. But that won't last unless the American people continue to put people in the Senate and the White House who have that same view of the court. This bill that was filed last week by Senator Markey from Massachusetts and House members Jerry Nadler and others said, well, they got to put 3 members on the court, so we should put 4 members on the court. And of course, the next time Republicans are in control, should our view be well, they got to put 4, we'll put 5. The court does not get better as it gets bigger. And frankly, I even think that President Biden's commission, unlike anything that an executive has ever done before, to have a public group to hold public meetings to determine how the court was doing its job, and that will become a debate, I guarantee you, about the decisions the court's making. It seems to me that you're really overstepping in a significant way the separation of powers that the Constitution creates in that balance. So 9 members, there's the Constitution doesn't mention how many members there should be in the court, but since 1868, there have been 9, and the work of the court doesn't get harder as the country gets bigger. In fact, as you have more Court of Appeals judges and other judges, the court last year took the fewest cases it may have ever taken, certainly that it's taken in the last 50 or 60 years. The 9 judges of the Supreme Court dealt with 56 cases. They agreed to hear 56 cases. They had a year to do it. Not a single judge is saying that they were overworked last year, though of course there would be judges who didn't agree with every opinion that came from the court. But it's not you can't be arguing, well, the country's a lot more, there are a lot more people than there used to be in the country. There's a lot more litigation than there used to be in the country. We need a bigger Supreme Court. That's not the job of the Supreme Court. And I'm going to do everything I can to try to hold that court exactly where judges that have served there universally from all political sides have taken the view that this is about the right number, and this court can continue to work, and it will have new members on it as time goes on. And every time you get a different combination of people in control of the White House and the Congress, you can't decide you're going to try to make the court bigger to make it more reflective of your views as opposed to more reflective of the Constitution.
And just one quick follow-up on that. You talked about what you'll be doing. What is something that our activists and voters can be doing to make sure that these, frankly, efforts to expand the court don't succeed?
Well, I just read something about this today. I can't remember exactly where I read it. It was an article on packing the court. And the point was made that when Franklin Roosevelt tried to pack the court, tried to add new judges to the court after his overwhelming reelection in 1936, Letters came in from all over the country to members of Congress. When members of Congress were having meetings, people stood up for a court that was the right size and stood up for the balance of power that the Constitution ensures. And that balance of power goes away if two of the three parts of our government decide they're just going to manipulate the third part however they need to have enough judges on there to decide what they wanted to decide. So I think reaching out aggressively right now, in aggressively, not in a physical way, but aggressively in writing your congressman, writing your senators, explain how this would be a massive overreach by the Congress of the United States to go in this direction. Let them hear from you is the right thing for right now.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. And just so our viewers know, it's important for you to stand up. It's important for you to make your voice heard. And again, we have a link down below in the comments. And if you click on that, we make it very easy to engage with your elected officials, with the House and Senate members of Congress. So just go down below into the comments below, and then you can click on that link. Now, Senator Blunt, I want to personally thank you, number one, for coming on and joining us today. I want to thank you for working to expand access to healthcare. Telehealth is very important, and it's important to Missourians. And I think you made the point that it's very important to rural Missouri, helping individuals get to see a doctor that might not be able to as easily before. Also, want to thank you for, helping to maintain the traditions of the Senate, helping protect the minority voice in the Senate by pushing it back against the attempts to remove the filibuster, but then also, trying to protect our courts too, and trying to protect them from getting back. So I want to thank you for all the hard work that you're doing for us from Missouri right now. We definitely appreciate it. And thank you again for joining us, and thank all of the individuals viewing this for joining us today too. Before we leave though, I wanted to pass it back over to you, Senator Blunt. And if there's any closing thoughts that you'd like to give our viewers today, please share it with them. And thank you very much again.
Well, I do think continue to reach out, look at what's happening, look under the hood just a little bit whenever you hear that something is a big infrastructure package. I think all of us knows there are things we can't do in terms of roads and bridges and highways and connectedness. But you can't just call anything you want to infrastructure because infrastructure is popular. And also understand that when one side in today's federal government says they have some kind of mandate, the House has the closest majority the Democrats have had since 1868, over 150 years. The Senate couldn't be more evenly divided. I don't know what we'll hear from President Biden on Wednesday, but every indication is we're going to hear a dramatic change in terms of the overwhelming involvement of the federal government in people's lives. And I don't think that's what makes America great. You need to look carefully at the promises made. Just a few weeks ago, everybody was told, almost everybody's going to get $2,000. And a lot of my friends and your friends immediately said, well, that'd be great getting $2,000. I'm for that, without really thinking how that really is a challenge for people in the future to pay back $2,000 to families that had not been impacted negatively by COVID, had not been impacted negatively by the economy. We're a big, diverse, caring society, but there are consequences. Elections have consequences, but so do the actions of elected officials, and so do the decision by the people we work for to decide either to stand silent or step up and do what you need to do to be sure that the people that work for you know how you feel about these critical issues. And Americans for Prosperity in our state and around the country makes it easy for you to express your views, and I'd encourage you to do that.
All right. Well, thank you again, Senator Blunt, for joining us, and thank all of the viewers who had joined us today as well. Thank you.
With you.